My name's Olaf Tesarczyk. Thank you so much for joining us for the quick presentation. The ZPS team here at ZPS America is comprised of Andrew Souza, he's in spare parts and service, of Paul Swiftney, our engineering manager, Zach, our application manager, and Dave Stevens in sales. What we like to do today in a little bit, explain you a couple of things about parts that we do on our multi-spindles. You probably haven't seen too many of those parts run on the CNC Multi. They are very long, and we of course have also very complex parts which we and our competitors all can do. What I wanted to explain to you first is our approach to a new type of machine. It's a machine that is not geared towards the very, very complex parts. What do I mean by that? It's parts that have medium complexity, like this part, very tight tolerances, but you can't afford a $2.5 million machine. That's why even our competition from Index stays there with their chief of applications to listen what I have to say. So I'm very grateful for that. So we look for the machine that basically is suited for the parts where you always say it's too much money for a CNC Multi. But that's 80% of the volume of parts in the country comprised of these parts. Only 20% are the high complex parts like this with over 150 features. So let's not talk about this part right now. Let's talk more like a part that needs to run in 9 or 10 seconds complete because you don't have enough money in the part to justify a $2 million machine. So our approach was, how can we best create a CNC Multi that fits this purpose? Number one, how can we meet the price point? So we talked to our friends from Siemens, too expensive. Then we actually looked at other machine tool builders. The best one that always comes into mind, no, it's not Index. The best one that comes to mind is, for screw machines, cam machines, if I can make it on a Davenport, don't touch it, right? If it runs on a Davenport, so don't touch it. So, well, you can say for the Acme too, but again, the idea, you understand the idea where we came from. So the idea was, okay, why is a Davenport, a machine that's over 70 years old, still used so much? Because when it runs on a Davenport, it runs. And the machine is almost to nothing in cost. So we said we need to have a speed of a Davenport. I'm not trying to make a lot of advertisement for Davenport, but you know, you gotta realize that was a revolutionary concept. The speed, 8,000 RPM. Indexing time is on a Davenport, how much? 0.4 here, 0.4 seconds. Index can't do it, forget. Can't do it. So 0.4 second indexing time, 8,000 RPM, 5 spindles. The reason why we have 5 spindles is because the parts have medium complexity. If I need more spindles, I need more controls. I need Siemens. So Siemens is not limited in CNC axis on the CNC Multi. Siemens has up to 72 CNC axis. With Fanuc, I'm limited to 31 because I can only use one control on a Fanuc. But if I can stay with 31 axis, I pay a third the money on the controls that I pay from Siemens. That's the reason why we went with Fanuc. And Fanuc is a standard in the US. Everybody in the US understands Fanuc. So, number one, we had Fanuc as a control, 8,000 RPM, main spindle, 0.4 indexing time, 5 spindles. So now comes the next question. What do we do with our bar loader and all the other stuff? Well, as you may know, ZPS, Timax ZPS also owns Pietro Cucchi. Pietro Cucchi was bought 5 years ago. So we basically had our friends in Cinisello, Italy, design a bar loader that doesn't only hold the bar loader, but also holds high pressure coolant, chip filtration, and the chiller. The chiller is used for the 2000 PSI high pressure coolant and to chill the control cabinet. So you have no air coming into the control cabinet, which is, by the way, down below. So next thing, we needed to actually make sure that we have no chips hang up in the machine, which of course you never have on a multi-spindle. So how do you avoid that? Well, no motors in the cutting tool area. As you can see, there's no drives exposed in the cutting tool area. All the coolant lines are through the tools. And all the coolant lines, high and low pressure, you control through the machine control. You can make full open, half open, quarter open, and you can select, because we are the only CNC machine tool builder that has a full Y-axis, unlike Index, right? Where they only do this. We have 180 millimeter travel. We have 3 tools in the Y-axis, and we can select each tool individually. Why is that important? Because if you have 2,000 psi of pressure, and if you have all your ports open, your pressure goes down to nothing. So those are some of the features of the machine. The control cabinet on the bottom, the footprint of the machine makes a lot of sense because it's not much bigger than a Swiss CNC machine. We have 2 Y-axis, position 2 and position 4. And we have also 3 driven tools in the back working with a full Y-axis. So position 1, I have 2 versions of the machine. One is with constant spindle speed in all 5 positions. And the option number 2 is 1 spindle speed for each spindle with C-axis. Both versions are possible, and I have up to 50 Newton meter at 1,000 RPM. Why is that important? Because, like we explained before, we can do with this machine complete form tooling in position 1. Form tools are very important for multi-spindles, if you can use them and if you have to torque. Why? Because position number 1 on any multi-spindle and the back working will determine your cycle time. So, anyhow, that's the machine. Any questions so far? Nothing. Say again? Yes, well, I was asking for, I was waiting for a question on the price. This machine is definitely under $1 million. So the point is, the machine needs to be affordable, and it needs to have the production so it can meet medium complex parts requirements. Under $1 million. Yeah, with a loader. So everything that you see here is the machine tool. High pressure coolant, 2,000 psi, 30 gallons a minute. Chip filtration down to 5 microns, either magnetic or with filter. Chiller 5 ton to cool the control cabinet and your oil. Everything on a quick change rack with a bar loader. The bar loader is on guide rails. The machine installation will take 1 day because if you see, all my accessories are under the bar loader in the rack. I only have 2 conical screws to connect this whole rack to the machine, and then my installation is done. Very simple. Yeah. So all of that together, including tool monitoring and fire suppression. It's all together. That's the whole package. Good. That's all I wanted to tell you about our CNC multis and our CAM multis, of course. We have over 550 installations in the country. As a matter of fact, this part is made on a CAM multi, not on a CNC multi, complete. Yeah? So, that's about it. Any comments from our customer? How many years have you gotten our machines running? 8 years, 7 machines, right? And? There you go. Okay, very good. I hand you over to our sales manager for the machines, Dave Stevens. Thank you so much for coming.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming by. Today I want to talk about our Manurin 816 machine. The 8 is representing how many axes, but there's also 2, they're counting linear axis, so we also have 2 C-axis, so we actually have 10 axes on this machine. So the 16 represents, it's a 16 millimeter bar spindle capacity, and if you prep the bar, you can go up to 20 millimeter. Before I point out anything else, this is a 16 millimeter machine, and the weight of this unit is it's 3,500 kilos, so it's over 7,000 pounds for a little 16, 20 millimeter. So that's a very, very heavy base. I can open up the side here. You're going to see this is built on a slant bed system, and it's all casting all back here, all casting back here. And you'll notice that all of my two cross slides here, that's a huge casting on that. The whole idea of these KMX Manurin machines is to build a big, heavy unit. So the way this machine is designed, I have two cross slides that are completely independent of one another. So I can do pinch turning, I can do pinch milling. Now inherently on all Swiss machines, when you get into drilling with the Swiss machine, the driven tools are usually pretty weak when it comes to it. So I can put an optional tooling package on here where I can take the top tools on each side and make them at 8,000 RPM. I can drop the next ones down in half at 4,000 RPM, so I'm effectively doubling the torque. And then I can drop it down to 2,000 RPM, so I'm effectively quadrupling the torque on it. So I can put a bigger end mill in there. If you want to go in and mill some flats, you have more power to do it with this machine. So this machine also has this upper slide on here, which is quote unquote a slash front slash back working. You can get driven tools on any one of these slides. You can get up to 3 tools for front and 3 tools for back driven. So theoretically, I can have 2 tools pinch turning at the main spindle side. I can be drilling on center with this attachment here, and then with the counter spindle, I can also be cutting on center. So on the right application, you can actually have 4 tools in a cut on here. But if you need to, then you can separate those up and do those differently. Now, these are all on Fanuc 31i modes. So we have the simpler machines like this. We have them 4 or 6-axis machines in these, all the way up to our 12-axis 26 millimeter, which will go up to a 32 millimeter. That machine in the back there happens to pull in at about 9,700 pounds. And the other thing that we do on here is we don't use the typical linear roller bearings. We're using the roller pins on here. So you get a lot more strength on your guide rails as far as being able to turn more power and everything else. So the only thing you have to worry about is if you're going to have any pushback on your bar, and we got plenty of solutions to keep that from happening on these machines. So, any questions on these at all right now?
Hello? Okay, yes. Thank you so much for coming here. If you have any further questions, the whole team will be glad to answer any of them. Is there anything else that comes to your mind right now that we need to address for everybody? Well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for your interest.